Good morning. It is a chilly morning here in Indiana. We are getting ready to hit the road again without the camper. So we just got back from a trip to Mexico without the camper. This time we're going on a family trip, but we are not taking the camper, so we thought we would show you guys what we do when we're leaving the camper for a day or more. Now we do full-time in our camper, so some of this might be different for y'all if you're just leaving for a day trip when you're on one of your weekend trips or whatnot. But some of it is also applicable to just leaving your house for a trip. We are leaving here shortly, so we're gonna jump right into this and show you all what we do when we leave our camper. Mike is currently inside. I don't know what he's doing, but I feel like the camper's gonna be chaos. We'll see.
Welcome to the chaos zone.
This is a good intro into our first tip, which is leave a clean space. So anytime we're leaving on any sort of trip, like I said, a day, a couple weeks, whatever we're doing, we try to tidy up our space. So that means we're gonna wash the few dishes we have left. Hopefully Mike is gonna clean up this complete chaos here. Leaving your space clean is such a relief when you come home, because when you come home you have those suitcases, you have all the dirty laundry from your trip, everything, and immediately your camper, your house, whatever it is, turns into just chaos space. So Mike and I learned years ago, anytime we're leaving for any amount of time, we try to clean our space up. So that's what we're gonna do first thing here this morning, and finish the packing too, which you should probably do the day before. I did want to take a quick moment and let everyone know, because I know certain people are concerned, the goat is coming with us on this trip. And if you don't know about the goat, you're gonna find out about the goat. So it is definitely looking better in here already. Honestly, we call this a 10. Mike and I say, let's take a 10. And all that is 10 minutes to just pick up stuff. Pick up, tidy. It's not the deep cleaning, it's just a 10-minute quick pickup, and it makes you feel so much better in your space. So now it's tidy in here. The next thing I do is I unplug unnecessary or like high dollar stuff. So I don't unplug everything in the camper, but there is a chance somehow there could be an electric surge or something. So also, if you're getting charged for electricity at your campsite or at your home, there's no reason to be using electricity that you're not needing to be paying for. So a couple little things that I unplug. The coffee maker. No one's making coffee while we're not in the camper. The ice maker. Again, no one's making ice. There's no reason for that to be draining electricity or running a risk of some crazy fluke happening and some electrical fire or surge or something. I know, I'm probably overthinking these things, but it makes me feel a little more comfortable leaving knowing that these are not going to be an issue. A couple things that we do leave plugged in while we are gone. One would be our waggle. So even though Callie will not be in the camper, the waggle is a good way to monitor the temperature of the camper remotely. So if, heaven forbid, something happens and the temperature goes up really high or down really low, we'll know, oh man, something's going on with the camper, and we can call someone to go check on it. Another thing we leave plugged in is our Wi-Fi, unless we're taking it with us, but on this trip, we're not taking it with us. We use the Calyx system for our Wi-Fi. We love it. We have a whole video about it if you haven't seen it. Mike will drop it up here. But we leave it plugged in because our cameras run off of it. So we do have a camera inside of our camper. Again, it's mostly for Callie, our dog, but while we're gone, it's just a little extra sense of security. Okay, the camera is still on, it's still hooked up to Wi-Fi, we can still remotely access it, so we can check on the camper just in case, again, heaven forbid, something happens. That's pretty much all we do inside. So cleaning up and tidying, just taking those 10 minutes to make your space prepared for when you come back so you're not as stressed out. Unplugging the unnecessary items and just making sure the electrical stuff is okay. One more thing that we do is if our water heater is on, we make sure it's off. That's just one more thing that's running. Again, it's an electrical thing that, heaven forbid, something could happen. We turn it off. There's no reason for it to be heating up water while we're not here. Let's go outside and talk about what we do to the outside of the camper before we leave for any extended period of time.
So outside your camper, if you guys are leaving on a trip, I would make sure your awning is in. our awning seems to fluctuate a lot with the wind. I know some people have awnings where they have it staked down, but for me, I worry too much about the awning getting torn off because I've seen too many pictures. So we always roll our awning in, and then I'm going to turn off the water as well. That way you don't have to worry about any water leaks or anything. So make sure your water is turned off at the spigot. And then what I do is actually come outside, since we have a quick connect, and I run the hose to make sure that all the water's ran out of the lines.
Don't you dare! Oh, you would be in trouble, sir. While we're talking about turning the water off, we recently went to the Grand Design National Rally, and this came up in conversation. Do you turn off your water anytime you leave your camper? I'll be honest, we don't. If we're going to the store or we're going out on a hike for a few hours, we don't turn off our water. But after going to the rally and hearing some horror stories, we're kind of rethinking that. So I'm curious, how many of y'all actually turn off the water anytime you leave your camper? Or do you leave it on if it's just gonna be a few hours or you're just gonna be gone for part of the day? Let us know in the comments below, because I'm very curious about this. Even if it's not a windy place where you're living, you don't know what's going to happen with the weather. So it's safer just to put in the awning. It's not doing anybody any good with it out anyway. Just put it in. That's one less worry that you have while you're on your vacation.
So if it was going to be below freezing, I would set the furnace to, I don't know, maybe 55 or 50, something like that, depending on how cold it's gonna get. So the weather isn't supposed to get below freezing. It's only supposed to get around 39. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn off the propane as well. That way you don't have to worry about your propane linking, and it's one less thing that you have to worry about when you're on a trip.
We go back and forth on whether we empty our tanks before we leave on a trip or if we leave them full or half full until we get back. The advantage of emptying them before you leave is that you come back to that camper and you are good to go. You're not worried about, oh, as soon as we get back, I have to empty the tanks. Again, it's just one more stressor on that return from your vacation. But there are instances where we do leave our tanks with stuff in them, whether they're half full, 3/4, all the way full. One of them is if we're at a site that doesn't have full hookups. So right now we are mooch stocking at my parents' house, and technically we have full hookups, but we don't leave our stinky slinky connected all the time. So today I'm not that worried about it. The tanks are not that full. We're going to leave them as they are. Another reason that we would leave them without emptying them, leave them full or as full as they are, is if there's any chance of inclement weather. We wintered in Florida a couple times, and one of the years there was a tropical storm coming in. We left the camper for the night, but we left our tanks as full as they could be. We actually put water into our gray tanks. That helps the camper be a little bit heavier. In theory, it would help the camper be less likely to get shifted by wind or blown away or turned over. If we are worried about inclement weather, high winds, or anything like that, we also go one step farther and we put the slide in. We don't normally do that. It's like one time out of 100 that we will. But if we are leaving and we are worried about any chance of high winds, we will put the slide in. There are two more things that we do before we leave the camper for an extended period of time. One of them is extremely difficult and probably the hardest thing that we do when we leave the camper. I'm gonna save that one till last. But the other thing that we do is we lock our camper. Now, we upgraded to the RV lock a couple years ago. We've been full-time for 5 years. We didn't upgrade everything to begin with, but this is one upgrade that we are very glad we did. If you're not familiar with the RV lock, it is a keyless entry system. So we do have a key. I don't know the last time we used the key in it. It's just a code to get us into the camper. So once we lock it, it's just a code that we have to punch in. Now that's handy because if you've got your hands full and you don't want to dig your key out of your purse or pocket, that's super handy. But one of the reasons we really love it, especially when we're leaving for an extended period of time, is if something happens to the camper, so something shows up on the camera or the waggle has that spike in temperature, we can call a trusted friend, a neighbor, the camp host at the RV campground, and say, hey, if you don't mind, can you go check on my camper? Here is the code to get in. They have that 4-digit code. they can get into the camper, and then when you get home, if you don't want them to know that code, you can change it again. So it's really a peace of mind for us, and convenient from day to day, but it's peace of mind knowing that someone would be able to get into the camper easily if we needed them to.
Okay, is that everything?
I think. So those are kind of the steps that we do to make sure the camper is kind of as safe and worry-free as it can be when we leave for any extended period of time.
The bad thing about not taking the camper sometimes is not everybody's pet friendly. So one of the hardest things to do when we're leaving for a trip is saying goodbye to old Callie dog.
This was the hardest step that I was saving for the end. If you don't know, this is our baby Callie. She hasn't made it in a lot of videos lately, but we can't take her on this trip, unfortunately. The good thing is we are staying at my parents' right now, so they are going to watch her for the week. She will get to be a farm dog, and she will be, honestly, not missing us at all.
Okay, you ready?
Got you.
Callie's good,
Callie's
camper's good. We gotta make sure everything's locked up, and then we're ready to hit the road.